It's time to get inside the Giants huddle.
Huddle up, huddle up, huddle up.
On Giants.com.
Here we go.
And the Giants mobile
Get
app.
them in there. Let's go.
Part of the Giants podcast network.
Welcome to another edition of the Giants Huddle podcast, brought to you by PSE&G, energy efficiency for game time and anytime. Visit pseg.com/Giants for discounts, rebates, and home energy assessments. Hello, everybody. My name is John Schmelk. Hope you had a great holiday. Hope you're going to have a happy new year. A very big Giants Huddle podcast coming your way today. Man of the Year nominee, Pro Bowl selection, Saquon Barkley will join me, and we have a nice, fun sit-down. Bob Papa, of course, with Brian Dable. And then we have Mike Chappell, who covers the Colts for Fox 59, CBS 4, will be joining us to talk about this upcoming game and give you a preview of the Colts in this win and you're in game for the New York Football Giants. But before we get to Saquon, folks, just go back. Make sure you listen to the Trent Green podcast right here on the Giants Huddle. It went up late Thursday, so you might have missed it since this podcast went up on Friday. Really a fun conversation. Former NFL quarterback Trent Green, he's doing the game on CBS this Sunday. A really good listen. Talked to him about not just the game, but really went into Daniel Jones a lot as a former quarterback in the NFL. Get some good insight on Daniel. And we take a little broader look at the playoffs because the Giants, maybe they're in the playoffs after this week. They will be if they beat the Indianapolis Colts. Also, draft season, our draft podcast. We're getting towards the end of the season here. Bowl games are coming. Combine's coming. Senior Bowl, Shrine Game coming. We talk about all that. We preview the bowls. We talk about some of the underclassmen that are declaring for the NFL draft. Tony Pauline, Eric Crocker, and I getting ready for that offseason as Giant fans start to think about what's going to happen in April at the NFL draft as the Giants try to improve this roster heading into next season. So make sure you go subscribe again to the draft season podcast on your favorite podcast platform, or just go to the Giants app or giants.com/podcast, where you can also find all of our podcast offerings, including Big Blue Kickoff Live, our daily show live on giants.com and the Giants app at 12:30. All right, let's get to it. My conversation and sit down with the Giants offensive MVP, at least in my opinion, Man of the Year nominee, and Pro Bowl selected running back, Saquon Barkley. Saquon, I'm going to start with the hard-hitting questions. How was Christmas?
Christmas was fun. Obviously, it would have been a little better if we came home with a win, but at the end of the day, to be able to spend Christmas with your family, had a whole bunch of family members come up, and just, spend time with my kids, spend time with my family. That's the things that, are the most important. So, definitely a blessing. What
was the big Christmas gift for the kids this year?
We got Jada a lot of gifts, but her favorite gift was toy snakes.
Toy snakes.
Yeah, she went crazy about that in a princess dress. But it just shows you that kids just are just happy. Just
it's great,
happy.
Isn't it?
All the stuff that we were able to get her, obviously, we're blessed and we're fortunate enough. But the thing she loved the most was toy snakes, and just put a smile on all our faces.
Yeah, we did the same thing. I have a 5-year-old, and we got her it was like a $12 Rapunzel costume at Target. She wore the thing all day.
Yeah,
I had to use the jaws of life to get her out of it. It was like the best day of her life. And it's just, you watch that, and it just kind of makes everything else better. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's get to it here. You talked about being fortunate enough to be able to have a great Christmas with your kids. Let's talk about your Man of the Year nomination first. Then talk about the work you do with the Covenant House and why you chose that charity and group and why it's so important to you.
It kind of just started off with my mom and dad having a conversation with them when I first got drafted and trying to see something we can do, have a change, make an impact in our community, and partnered up with Covenant House. And I never really came to a conclusion to this until the other day when the Covenant House, I bring Covenant House kids to the games and give them home tickets, and after every game, whether win, loss, draw, sit down with them and spend some quality time with them. And they always ask me questions, and they asked me the same question: why Covenant House? And I was giving them my answer, and my mom kind of cut me off, and was saying that we were homeless before, we've been in this situation before, so we know what it feel like, and that's really the big thing for me. Is I'm very blessed. I accomplished a lot so far in my career and within my dreams, and I feel like God blessed me, and I want to use that blessing and try to have an impact on other people's lives. And working with Covenant House or working with my foundation, just so many things we've done throughout the years. A goal of mine was to be a nominee and win the Walton Payton Man of the Year, and it's truly an honor to be a nominee and alongside the other 31 athletes who are doing tremendous things in the community. And like I said, everyone knows that I'm a competitor and I would love to win this award, but a award like this, just being nominated and not winning, just only good comes out of it, because like I said, 31 other guys doing some really extremely good things for the community, and that's really all it was. Just want to have an impact in my community. I want to leave a legacy, not just on the football field but off it.
I'm just curious, what is it that you try to get across to the different groups of kids that you bring to each game? Because I know you take a lot of time when you're done in the locker room, either after your press conference or before, to talk to them. You want to go home, you're tired, but you take time to talk to different groups of kids at each game. What do you try to talk to them about and try to get across to them?
I kind of just listen first. I try to listen to their stories, see what they want to do, see what they want to accomplish. And when they ask me questions, just answer honest and to the best of my capability. That's really, I feel like that's the best you can do. And the answers that I try to give them is through my life's experience, through the things that I went through to help me get to this point. And the main message is always going to be the same, and it's never going to change. Is, whatever you want to do. You want to be a chef, you want to start your own podcast, you want to be a football player, you want to be the president of the United States, you can do anything you want. All you got to do is have the right mindset, surround yourself with the right people, and believe. And if you continue to have that and work for it, all those things are able to be accomplished. And that's something that was instilled in me as a kid. That's something I'm instilling into my kids. And, I try to hopefully instill that to the young people that I talk to.
Well, best luck. Hopefully you come out with the win this year.
Thank you.
And you bring it home. Let's talk some football. One other great accomplishment you got in December, you were elected to the Pro Bowl. When you think back to all the hard work you've put in the last 3 years dealing with different injuries each year and fighting back and getting back to where you are this year, do you look back and do you just kind of sit back and say, wow, you know what? I know it's not about making the Pro Bowl and that's not the ultimate goal, but is it at least something you say to yourself that, yeah, I'm back and this feels pretty good that I'm being recognized for once again being at the top of my position group?
Yeah, I mean, for me, a goal wasn't to make the Pro Bowl. To be honest, funny story. When I played, I made a Pro Bowl my rookie year.
Yeah,
and you kind of take it for granted. You kind of think this is going to be a every year thing. Go out, ball out, do what you do. Hopefully make it to Super Bowl. If not, have some fun at the Pro Bowl. Well, after my first year, I haven't made it 3-4 years since. So to be able to accomplish that and shows the respect that you're getting again, and the recognition that you're getting again. And for me, I know during the last couple of years battling through injuries, a lot of people kind of wrote me off and kind of count me out. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters was the belief in myself and the belief in the people that I care about that they had in me, and helped me to this point. And that's really what all the stuff that I've been able to accomplish so far this season and with the Pro Bowl and hopefully, leading us to the playoffs and beyond. All that, I got to give thanks to so many people, family, friends, trainers, physical therapists. There's so many people, Dr. Elichash, who did my knee. There's so many people that helped me get back to this point. It's not, you don't just do it by yourself. So I'm just happy for them to be able to say thank you to them and show my gratitude to them during the times that they pushed me in through the hard work to be able to get back to the level that I know that I'm capable of. And even still, I know there's another level I could take it to. So try to finish the season off strong and go back, watch film, and get in all season and train and try to take it to another level for the next season.
And it certainly seems like the last 2 games you are closing the season pretty strong here. Over 80 yards, over 4 yards per carry. First time for both in back-to-back games since the Texans game right after the bye, right? Why do you think the running game has clicked a little bit better the last couple of weeks?
We refine our identity again. I think that's like everyone kind of failed to realize it's like football. It's the National Football League. Like, people are going to adjust.
Of course.
People are going to adjust. We had our identity. We had a scheme. We had something that was working. And teams found ways to stop that. And
they're trying to, by the way.
That's what I'm saying. Right. And so now you kind of got to go back to the drawing board. But I mean, you're not reinventing the wheel. You go back, and in the last couple of weeks, we found a scheme and a system that kind of been working, and we've been trusting it too. So the reason why it's getting back is because got to credit to the coaches first, and then also to the guys up front, how they've been blocking it, and me trusting them and seeing the hole and hitting it.
Yeah, it's funny. You actually kind of answered my follow-up. I was going to say, when you got past the bye and you saw that teams are starting to make that adjustment back to you, right? You know this. The running game is so much about numbers and angles, right? They can put enough guys in there and in the right spots that's going to make it hard to run. You can do whatever you want. It's going to be tough, right? Mm-hmm. So what was the process like trying to figure out the counter to the looks those teams were giving you that really made it hard on you on the offensive line to keep that running game consistent?
Well, I kind of just had to go back and just have a conversation with myself. The running game starts with me, ends with me. Obviously starts with the guys up front too. And that's kind of how you counter it. You see what the guys are seeing up front and feeling, going off of them, making the reads, making the cuts on them. And then kind of go back and watch film and see what I could have done better. And at the end of the day, I felt like, I was dying easy, I guess you could say, was a word. Not saying I was going down easy. I was, going through my reads. It wasn't like I was really missing a lot of reads. I was going through my reads. Nothing was there. Try to fall forward for 1 or 2, and we were getting 3 or 4. And, then once again, people, this guy say this, guy say that. And I was like, all right, so you're going to have something negative to say if I try to do my job exactly what I'm doing. So I just went back, had the conversation with myself, with my mom and dad, 2 people that I always can rely on, and started going back to how I've been running since I was a little kid. Patient. Sometimes they're going to make plays. It might be a negative run, but patient. Try to set up the blocks. I know the scheme. I got a good feel for the offensive lineman, and that's why the last couple of weeks I feel like the run game been getting back on track.
Yeah, and so much of the numbers at the end of the game come back to those 1 or 2 big runs, right? If you get a 150-yard game, you're probably going to have a 30 or 40-yard run in there.
Yeah.
What's the art of turning that 8 or 10-yard gain into a 30 or 40-yard game? Or is there not an art to it? Is it just a matter of making that special move with the line, making one extra block?
Knowing who the line blocking, line blocking right, getting you one-on-one on your guy, and you winning your battles. It's all about winning your battles. I think a perfect example would be the touchdown against Minnesota last week. Line blocked it up perfect. John, identified it perfect. Was able to get one-on-one at safety, and that's my job. That's when I got to step up. The line got me there. I got to step up and make the play. And sometimes in that football league, they're going to make plays, but if I'm going to be the guy that I know I am, I got to make that play more times than not.
And when you saw what the passing game did last week, I thought it was the most consistent they've been. Daniel threw it over 40 times, was efficient. They moved the ball over 300 yards through the air. When you see the passing game doing that, do you see the boxes lighten a little bit? Do you see the impact that has on the defense where, we can't put all this attention on Saquon because then Daniel in the passing game is going to make us pay for that?
Yeah, I think it's all about balance. It's all about balance. It's all about playing off each other, all 3 phases. But if you're just speaking of offense, you run the ball well, it's going to help the pass game. You pass the ball well, it's going to help the run game. And that's just, it's really not complicated.
No.
A lot of people try to make it more complicated than what it is, but that's the truth. You run the ball well, you continue leaning on it, but the shots are going to be there, and that's what I think you saw early in the year. We had shot plays. You see Slay going down making big plays, and now you want to take focus on the run game. The passing going to be there. We just got to continue to trust it, and now we got to put together, especially late in the season, and when games are a little bit more critical in critical situations, we just got to continue to feed off each other and put a all well-rounded game together, passing and running.
I don't feel like you've been asked enough about your pass protection this year. Because I'll just speak for myself. I think it's been fantastic. Was that a big focus for you this offseason, trying to get that pass protection right? Is that something you've done differently? Is it just a continuation and growth of kind of what you've been doing your whole career? Because I think you've been great in pass pro this year.
I think it's a continuation of what throughout my whole career, just growing, getting older, having more experience. Some of the time having to battle is knowing who to block and just getting there before they can get a move off of you.
Sure.
To be completely honest. And, that's what I've been able to do this year, and understanding the scheme, understanding the way we blocking it, getting there in my fits, worked hard in the off season and throughout the season on it. But I mean, that's. I feel like once again, especially there's some years I could have been way better, but I never really thought my pass blocking was really that bad.
Oh, no, of course not.
No, I'm not saying you said it. I'm just saying, but it's you lose here or there, they're gonna blow it up. But it's you know what I mean? When you're doing it well, no one's going to give you credit for it. So it's like I don't really read too much into that.
Well, that's why I wanted to make sure I give you credit for it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't really read too much into that. I just try to go out there, do my job, and make sure that DJ can get the ball off. And if I could block my guy, and we'll give him time, give him space, and give him opportunity, we know what he can do with it.
On the opponent this week, people look at their record 4-10-1, and they say, "Oh, the Colts, they're home, should be a good game." Their defense is legit. Like, the fact that with their offense has had issues this year, right? They've struggled. But the fact that their defense has kept them in these games against Dallas, Philadelphia, the Chargers, 3 of the best offenses in football, right? They're in the game. They're leading in some of these games, like in the third and fourth quarter. That defense is a problem, right?
I mean, now you talking. You know what I mean? You talking. You say, I couldn't say any better than that. I know how people feel outside this building, but inside this building, no one's overlooking this team at all. They're a really talented team. Sometimes, the ball don't bounce your way a couple times, and you don't get the wins. But
the ball gets batted at the line and gets picked. Crazy stuff happens.
You can't just go off of a team's record. Obviously, 4-10-1, or I forgot.
You got it right.
What week we are in, but like you said, even before the Dallas game, before they had multiple turnovers back to back to back, like that was a good game.
It was a 2-point game in the fourth quarter.
Philly, Philly's one of the best teams. Dallas, one of the best teams. Philly, they, you could make it. They had a chance to win that game.
They were up 2 scores in the fourth quarter in that game.
So it's like they're a good team, especially on defense. They have a lot of talented guys. A great front. They do a really good job stopping the run. It's gonna be a challenge. Just like every week. It's the National Football League. Those guys get paid just like we get paid. And it's never. I've been on the side where, you're 4-9-1 or 4-9 or 4-10 or whatever. And your mindset is never like, oh, let's just come in here and let this team go to the playoff. No, you're like, hey, let's try to spoil.
Sure.
We may not be able to accomplish what we want to accomplish, but let's try to spoil someone else's dream. So, our focus is take it week by week. We know who our opponent is. Go out there, try to do the little things right. Continue to lean on each other, trust the system, take care of the ball. And when we do that, we put ourselves in position to win games and find a way to win them.
2 more questions, then I'll let you go here. I appreciate all the time, Saquon. This has been great. Thank you. Have you sensed the intensity picking up here towards the end of the year, with the games meaning a little bit more, and playoff positioning, and for you guys winning your in-game on the line? You've played in huge games in college. Obviously, you understand what it's like to play in big games. But in the NFL, a couple years ago, you had the win and help in your in-game at the end of the year. A couple years ago, but are you sensing that December and January NFL football kind of ramping up here for you and your group?
Washington and Minnesota. The intensity of speed, attention to detail, definitely was ramped up. Those 2 games. Obviously, everyone know what was at stake for both teams in those 2 games. So you definitely could see the difference. And I love how we responded. I love how we played in those games. Obviously, we got the win against Washington, but the loss against Minnesota. But sometimes, the beauty of it's not a playoff game. That game you don't lose and go home.
Correct.
We still have our opportunity to put ourselves in that, but you could learn from those games, and we did a lot of really good stuff. Obviously, we got to do a better job of taking care of the ball, but away, down 8 points, got to go down, score, and get a 2-point conversion. The offense stepped up and did that. More times than not, the defense did enough job. It just happened to be, there's only I saw a stat. It's kickers are 2-18 against 60-yard field goals, and 3-3 against the Giants. You can't knock them. It's a heck of a kick, but more times than not, if you play the number game, they're gonna miss that. They're gonna miss that kick, or they're not in position to make that kick, and you get a chance in OT. So I love how our guys responded, and as you can see the intensity of the game going, I think you can see how the guys are rallying around each other, and that level steps up, that intensity steps up. You can see the guys stepping up too.
Yeah, I'm going to follow up on that because I think it's interesting because I think fans leave a game like that and they say, oh, we could have won that game. It sucks we lost. I honestly walked out of that game and I'm on the plane with you guys going back from Minnesota. And I'm like, this is one of the more encouraging games of the year because if you guys don't shoot yourselves in the foot with some of those turnovers right in the block punt, you outplayed a team that had 3 losses. Yeah. That's pretty good. And the offense, I thought, moved the ball up and down the field maybe as well as they had in any game this year. Can you look at it kind of both ways heading out of a loss?
As a competitor, you hate that you lost. You can't hide that. But like you said, you can find beauty in a loss. You can find beauty in negative things, and we got to continue to build off of that, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Like you said, I think we moved the ball pretty well. I think we can go out there and execute a little bit more when we get closer. I love Graham. He's a great kicker, the best kicker in the league in my opinion. And we know we got a guaranteed 3, but go in there, punch in the box a little bit more. So we're not even in those positions later in the game, but we got to build off of that. We did some positive things, but it doesn't matter if we don't go into the next week building off that, because it's important to have that level of execution, especially as the games get more intense and the situations become more heightened.
Against really good teams. One really mistake can cost you a game,
really
right?
Teams, yeah.
All right, final question. I want to ask you about your psychological approach. I really feel like you've been disciplined this year. Whenever you get asked questions about things, you always seem to be very centered. You see the forest from the trees. You answer the question, but you just seem to have a very good approach to everything. And I think Brian Daboll's the same way, right? Like, he will not mention the word playoffs this week. They have tried a million times asking about the playoffs, and he will not budge on that. And I feel like you're similarly disciplined. How has your psychological approach to the game and your game and week to week changed over your career, and how has it kind of come together, and then how do you look at it to make sure you're in the right state of mind and you're focused, so you come out there and you do play your best on game day?
I would say it definitely changed from my rookie year to now. I guess that's kind of just happens, the nature of it.
Sure.
Just growing, having more experience. But I would say just the adversity that I had to face in my career, the injuries I had to face in my career. You have doubt, you have this, you have that. All those stuff that I had to, fall back on with locking in, being more disciplined, finding yourself again when you feel like you're lost, all help me and to get back to this moment and get back to where I'm at now. And I feel like, like I said, kind of with Minnesota, there's beauty in everything. You asked me a year ago, I would be like, I never want to get hurt. Like, please, like, I would never get hurt. Like, but those injuries happen, and like now that I look back at it, it's like, dang, like they all happen for a reason. It really did happen for a reason, and like just not even just as a football player, outside of football, but especially as a football player, like just being so much more appreciative of the game. I'm just having so much more respect of the game, like knowing that it could be taken from you at any given moment. I would say that's where I guess you could sense, just a little different approach from me. But yeah, just be more appreciative of the game, because knowing that one play, it could be taken away from you. It could be taken away from you on a routine play, something that you've done multiple times in your life, and there's no rhyme or reason why you should have got hurt on that. For instance, Dallas last year, like I just stepped on someone's foot.
I've never seen that in a football game, by the way.
I stepped on someone's foot, and like, so it's like stuff like that, just like, whoa, really makes you sit down and like, okay, like. And I'm really passionate about this game. I love this game, and I'm like, I want to be special. I want to leave a legacy, and I know that it could be taken away from me with a snap of a finger. So I just try to be calm, stay in the moment, enjoy the moment, and try to take advantage of it.
Now, you don't want to see a calm, in-the-moment crowd at MetLife Stadium on Sunday. You want to see some crazy fans going nuts, right? Are you pumped up to see that stadium like full-throated?
I'm excited. I think I saw something that Wink said. He's like, knowing his New Year's, keep the party rolling. Just wake up on New Year, keep it rolling right to the tailgates. Put some meat on the grill, grab a couple beers, whatever you gotta do to get you loud, and just bring that energy. And we know it. We know they're gonna bring it. And that's something that we wanted to do in the beginning of the season. We wanted to put a product out there that the fans could be happy about, and we're giving ourselves an opportunity to do that, and giving them an opportunity to do that. So. The energy that they're able to bring is going to just help us. So just thankful for them, not only for what they're going to do on Sunday, but for the way they've been rocking with us throughout the whole season.
Best luck on Sunday. Happy New Year, man.
Happy New Year.
Fans, don't miss Giants football at MetLife Stadium this season. Limited tickets are still available for the final game against the Indianapolis Colts on New Year's Day. Make sure you go to Giants.com/tickets to find your game and secure your seat. We thank Saquon Barkley for joining us on the Giants Huddle podcast. Now we head over to our game preview. Lance Meadow and Paul Dottino every week get the lowdown on the Giants' opponent and go deep into everything that the Giants will have to be prepared for in that particular game. This week, it's Mike Chappell. He covers the Colts for Fox 59 and CBS 4 Sports. Let's listen in.
Giants welcome the Colts to town this Sunday in their final home game of the season with an opportunity to clinch a playoff spot with a win. To get more into their opponent this week, we are now joined by a man who's been covering the Colts since they arrived in Indianapolis in 1984, now working for Fox 59, CBS 4, and that is none other than Mike Chappell. Mike, you got Lance Meadow and Paul Dottino here on Giants.com. Greatly appreciate the time today. Hope all is well. How's everything on your end?
Really good, because there's just 2 games to go in this mess of a season.
Well, that's certainly one way to put it. I can only understand and maybe relate to a certain degree what it's been like covering this team. And I actually want to start, Mike, with the offensive line, which is actually a topic that we've covered for many years with the Giants, because it's amazing to me. You look 2 years ago, they had Phillip Rivers and arguably one of the best offensive lines in football. We moved the calendar forward 2 years. I don't know if I've seen, maybe for the lack of a better phrase, the deterioration or the lack of consistency on an offensive line as quickly as we've seen in Indianapolis. So how do you explain this huge turnaround to the opposite direction over the last 2 years?
Primarily, and what's crazy is, like this year, they've had 6 or 7 different starting units, not by injury. None of this is by injury this year. It's all by performance. Primarily, left tackle, they simply have not. It's funny how people took Anthony Costanzo for granted. He's pretty good. And he went Pro Bowler, but he's pretty good. And since then, last year they made the decision to bring in Eric Fisher, who Chris Ballard had known certainly from Kansas City, and it didn't work. He was okay run protection, awful in pass protection. And then this year, they made the decision to fill that position with Matt Pryor, who in his career had started 1 game at left tackle. There was no off-season competition. There was no training competition, either at left tackle or right guard. At right guard, they lost both Mark Lewinsky and Chris Reed. And we knew those were 2 good players at right guard. But left tackle, you guys, if you've been around long enough, you can cover up deficiencies on the line, especially at guard. You can't hide a bad left tackle. And that's what they've had. They finally have gone to Bernhard Raimann. I think it was the 3rd round draft pick. And early he struggled because he'd had 8 starts in college. And now he's finally kind of getting his feet under him, and maybe he's the guy of the future. But the unsettled nature at left tackle and right guard both really cost his team. And on top of that, for the first, third of the season, Quentin Nelson wasn't playing well. Ryan Kelly wasn't playing well. Braden Smith wasn't playing well. And this is the highest paid offensive line in the league. It's like $43 million is socked into the line. And if your line struggles, you just can't. It's just hard to play offense in this league.
Mike, I want to go big picture, because obviously an offensive line that is in disarray is going to short circuit any team's plans for a good season. But let me go big picture here. We're looking at a team that's got Jeff Saturday now as a head coach. They've lost 5 in a row. They've lost 8 out of their last 9. What are their emotions and their mentality as they come into the Meadowlands this weekend for a Giants team that is got sharp teeth, is hungry, has everything on the line? Will the Colts, if they get beaten up early, be looking for that bus out of New Jersey quickly?
I don't think so, and that's human nature. I just don't think so. You talk to a handful of players, and what at least the veterans realize, though, is you're putting whatever you put out there on tape, everybody sees. And if this guy's not back here next year, will someone else want to have him in their place if he laid down over the last couple of games? And I think that's very real. I don't think effort's going to be an issue. First of all, effort should never be an issue. I mean, you only play 17 games. So, can't you get up for 17 games? But to me, effort's not the issue. It's personnel, and it's when you have issues at quarterback and left tackle. What do you do? And then the third one has been, the 3 top positions when you build a roster is quarterback, left tackle, and edge pass rusher. And they've gotten okay stuff from Ngakoue and Dio or Kwity Paye. but it's just that's been hot spots. And again, when the offensive line struggles, when it's left tackle and quarterback, I mean, this is the ninth different starting quarterback that they've had. For Ryan Kelly, who was their 2016 first round pick, you just can't you can't succeed. You guys have seen when you struggle at quarterback, the ripple effect hits every phase of your team.
No doubt about it. Very similar to what you were talking about with respect to playing the trenches. That's why it's amazing how many games Frank Reich won before he was let go, given the game of musical chairs at quarterback that you were referencing, Mike. So we've seen Matt Ryan. We've seen Sam Ehlinger. Now it's Nick Foles. Clearly, it was not pretty on Monday night. 3 interceptions. He was sacked 7 times. What, if anything, could the second game show for Foles, given he's now going to have another full week working with the first team offense and a little bit more comfort, or do you not expect really any much of a drastic change?
There should be some, because keep in mind, he had not played. He had been on the field for 2 plays this year, both in mop up at Jacksonville early. The first snaps he took with the starting unit was last Wednesday, and then a few days later he's playing. I mean, to me, the NFL, really anything, it's all about putting your players in position to succeed. Well, the Colts have put people in position to fail. They just have, whether it's Parks Frazier, the 30-year-old play caller, whether it's Jeff Saturday, whether it was Sam Ehlinger back when he was there, or now Nick Foles. And what Monday night showed us is, yes, quarterback is a problem, but these guys aren't the answer. And that's why I only semi-jokingly said, let's get these 2 games over, please. Because, they've scored. It's funny. You start looking for numbers that mean something, and they've failed to score a touchdown in 4 games this year. That's the first time since 1993 by this team. Anytime you go back, decades, you've got issues. So, but I do think another week will help Foles, just because, I mean, he's practicing with the first group. He's finally throwing to, Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce and Paris Campbell. And so that's got to help you. But I just don't think that much, because he still is who he is. And I just don't know that he can make a difference. Jonathan Taylor, this would have been a great JT versus Barkley game to watch 2 of the best running backs in the league go at each other. I mean, I realize they don't play against each other, but see how they perform. And now there's going to be Barkley against Deion Jackson and Zach Moss. And again, so much of what needs to happen for a team to be competitive, they can't do because they haven't got the personnel now to do it.
Well, Mike, even with the limited personnel, we know they've got nothing to lose. So I guess there's always that puncher's chance theory where they've got nothing to lose. And so they'll come in and just start winging the ball around, taking chances, going for 4th down, trying trick plays. And maybe if you play with a totally carefree attitude, you might be able to catch some lightning in a bottle. Does that hold any merit in this particular case?
Oh, to me, no. Going for it on 4th down, okay, I'm all for that. But winging it, the idea of Nick Foles throwing the ball 45 times is kind of scary to me. They've given up 56 sacks this year, and the franchise record 62. I'd hate to see that go down Sunday. But if they simply come in here and throw the ball around the park and all that and not worry about the run game, that's going to happen. They have got to rely on the run game. It's been okay. I mean, it showed signs. If they could have stuck with it more against the Chargers, they average about 4 yards a carry, which for them is pretty good without Taylor. I just don't think that with the way the protection's been, that they can say, let's just push the ball down the field and let's try to be aggressive and force the action. I just don't think they can do that and be successful. They came out against the Chargers and really, as we knew they would, try to push the ball down the field. And whether it was Foles not reading defenses right, whether it was he and receivers not being on the right page, he throws 3 interceptions by early in the 3rd quarter, two in the first half. And this team cannot, again, I believe the Giants are one of the best teams in the league at not turning the ball over. And that gives you a chance in the fourth quarter. That's why you're successful in one possession games. This team, again, it just depends on what stat you want to use to show the futility. They lead the league in most interceptions. They lead the league in most fumbles and lost, and they lead the league in total turnovers. They've given up 96 points on their turnovers. So it's just a formula that hasn't worked, and I just don't see how it changes. I understand what you're saying about, hey, what do you got to lose? Well, you got, your quarterback's health to lose. So I just don't see them doing what, like you say, might be what you might expect a team to do. These guys can't do it because they haven't got the personnel to do that.
And Mike, piggybacking off of your point, I mean, I think in addition to the inability to protect the quarterback, the inability to score touchdowns that you referenced, also third down has been a miserable percentage for them this season. They're 29th in the NFL. They were 0 for 10 against the Chargers. They didn't even convert one third down. That's more of a reason why I would agree with you. I think you want to run the ball to maybe set up some more manageable third downs. But what's mind-boggling is no matter who the quarterback has been, the third down lack of efficiency has still remained. So what do you attribute to why they have not been able to get over the hump in sustaining drives and solving that third down riddle?
Protection, and when they try to throw the ball, that's when teams know they're going to throw 3rd and 7, 3rd and 13, forget it. But a lot of their sacks have come on third down when the defense knows it's coming, so they do, whether it's just straight edge pressure or whether this team's been really bad at picking up the line stunts and things inside. So that's part of it. And what's really crazy is it's really hard to say, they shouldn't have benched Ryan. And really, he gives them the best chance. He really does of winning, even now. As bad as he was in the second half against Minnesota in a game that we all want to forget. But the two worst games this year by the offense and by the quarterback have been with Sam Ehlinger and Nick Foles. They were 0 for 10 third downs against the Chargers. They were 0 for 14 with Sam Ehlinger against the Patriots. And two of the 6 worst offensive games this year in the league, yardage-wise, number 2 was Sam Ehlinger with 121 yards against the Patriots, and number 6 was Nick Foles with 173 against the Chargers. So it's why I say it's not the quarterback's the problem, but the quarterback here is not the quarterback answer now is not here. It's not these 3 guys. It's just not.
Mike, the perception from the outside is that between Buckner and Ngakoue and Pay, there are some talented players on this defensive front. And their third down statistics and average yards per game are certainly very, very respectable. So if the Colts are going to make this a competitive game, does it rely on the shoulders of that defensive line?
Without question. And you didn't mention one of their best players, Grover Stewart. He's a nose tackle, and I'm telling you, he's played at a Pro Bowl level. He really has. Buckner's playing well, and he's been banged up, had an elbow and other things. Ngakoue's been pretty good. It's funny. He's going to end up with like 10 or 11 sacks, and you're going to think, really? And it's not been quite that strong of a season. But no, this is the defense should keep it close. I don't see that the Giants have been such an explosive team. Now, that may change if you get Barkley out on the edge and he turns an 8-yard run into 80, which can happen. But this defense has played well, and I know people roll their eyes when you give up 39 points after halftime at Minnesota. That was a kind of like an outlier, I think. By and large, it's played pretty well. Like I said, keep in mind, with the 30 turnovers, the 96 points, I think, if I lose track of the numbers, 96 points, you hope the defense limits damage, but sometimes it's just hard to do when it's, series after series. Stephon Gilmore's played at a Pro Bowl level. He really has. Like you said, Buckner, Kwity Paye's played well. So they've got a really good core of people. When they make changes in the offseason, if I could bring this defense back intact with a few changes, but intact, this is a playoff defense. Super Bowl, no. Playoff, yes. It's just been put in too many bad positions, and in some cases, it's just worn down. They should have beat Philly. They had Philly beat, and then Jalen Hurts does a couple of things that he always does, and they get beat. They should have beat Washington, and then Heineke throws one deep to McLaurin, and he makes a great play against Gilmore. The defense is not the problem at all. This is all offense.
We're talking with Mike Chappell, who's been covering the Colts for multiple decades now, working for Fox 59, CBS 4. And as you mentioned, the offense has done no favors for the defense, Mike, over the course of the season because of the precarious field position. I want to focus on the secondary. They lose Isaiah Rodgers last game to a knee injury. They put him on IR. And Kenny Moore has missed the last few games with an ankle issue. The significance of not having those two guys in the lineup. I know Moore has not practiced as of right now based on when we're talking with you and how perhaps they have overcome those two players in particular.
Yeah, and at some point, people always question depth. Well, everybody's got depth. I mean, you get players. Everybody's got 5 or 6 corners. But when you lose 2 of your top 4, the trickle-down effect is so immense at every position. But at corner, I mean, Rodgers is playing really well. Fajon's going to have to play a lot more. And again, Gilmore, maybe it won't be quite so significant against the Giants, and I'm probably setting myself up for your guy to throw for 400 yards. I don't know. But it's just it matters. And you're going to see Dallas Flowers will play more, and he's primarily been a special teams guy. But at this point of the season, when you lose players, all of a sudden your 5th, 6th, and 7th corner has to play, and a lot of times that 6th and 7th corner is on your practice squad. So it's difficult, but they've played pretty well to this point. Again, Gilmore's played very well. Fajon's been up and down. That's why they're going to miss Rodgers. But fortunately, and I say that very cautiously, they don't face great passing games these last 2 games. They did a pretty decent job against Justin Herbert last week. But, they're just going to be asking these young kids, unproven guys, to step up and play extended minutes.
Mike, final thought for me is when I look at the Colts special teams, I see for the most part a really solid unit there. And I guess it's a shame that their efforts kind of have been wasted. But how important is their special teams to giving them some glimmer of hope?
Well, their offensive MVP is Chase McLaughlin. Your kicker should never be your offensive MVP. That's simply what he set a franchise record with like 8 50-yard field goals. Good for him, but it just tells you the offense can't do much when you get past the 50-yard line. They lose their punter before the season starts, and Matt Hawk has been okay. He's had a couple of bad games, but he's been okay. So, and Dallas Flowers has given him on returns. Although I tell you, it's funny, he's had 3 or 4 really, really good returns. Had one like 80 yards, and then this past week he returns one 9 yards deep. I'm thinking, are you crazy? Nobody. Devin Hester didn't return him 9 yards deep. So, but it just shows you they're trying to get some spark on special teams, because you just know that the offense it's not going to do it. But special team, like I say, when I look back at this season, defense has played well with a few hiccups. Special teams has played really well. And I keep coming back to the same thing. It's been offense, but the other 2 areas have been more than playoff worthy.
Mike, before we let you go, I want to circle back to where we started the conversation. I referenced off the top that this is a huge game for the Giants. They have an opportunity to lock up a playoff spot in the event they win, because they control their own destiny and they get to the postseason for the first time since 2016. You were mentioning you're not concerned about the Colts being motivated because, as you mentioned, you only have 17 games. But I guess what I'm getting at is, even though it's out of conference, how aware do you think the Colts are of what the Giants have on the line in this game and what that may add to Jeff Saturday, the coaching staff, and so forth in terms of the dialogue entering this game?
Well, we asked Ryan Kelly that on Wednesday, and he probably was speaking for a lot of teams or a lot of players, and like it doesn't matter what the Giants have on the line. This is about how they finish. And I've not followed it. If the Giants lose, can they still get in by winning the final game, or is this the win or else game?
Sure. No, there's still other possibilities going into Week 18. Yeah, and even this week. Yeah,
but you don't want to leave it in other people's hands. That's
sure.
Not. But no, you're right, because and I tell you one thing that's been like the question the last few weeks, and it really rubs players wrong. But we have to ask it is, are you guys aware that the more you win, the worse it hurts you in the draft? And they don't care. They don't care. Because, if I'm a player on this roster, I don't care what the draft pick is next year because I may not be here. So I really think they do internalize, and this will be all about them. Hey, if you can spoil another team, super. That's sort of like an additional thing. But they're much more important, more driven by let's do what we do. And Jeff Saturday at some level has to know that, going 1-7 as an interim coach isn't a good thing, especially when you include giving up 33 points in a quarter to Dallas and giving up the biggest collapse in NFL history. That's not good on your resume, but they are trying to take it to the old one game at a time, and they're just trying to finish strong for themselves. Who wants to finish the season on a 7-game losing streak? Nobody. And there's no way you sugarcoat that and say, well, no, a 7-game losing streak is a 7-game losing streak. So they'd like to get one, if not here, then the last game against Houston, but it starts Sunday against the Giants.
Well, Mike, they can have a win against Houston next week. I'm just looking to give them a 6-game skid. That's all.
There you go. But week to week, it's week to week.
Mike, as a quick follow-up, because you got me thinking, the media spoke to Mark Lewinsky this week, who you referenced, who obviously is now a member of the Giants, and he was with the Colts last season when they lost to the Raiders and the Jaguars in each of the final 2 weeks and prevented themselves from getting into the playoffs. You've been covering this team for many decades. You've seen the ebbs and flows. I'm just curious. Every team's different. I'm not saying the Giants are identical to the Colts, but what you saw in those final 2 games and what you think was a learning situation from what the Colts went through in those 2 games that maybe can apply to the Giants as they try to approach and close things out in these final 2 weeks?
Well, it's obvious the Colts learned nothing from it because, they're 4-10-1. But it's just that when the time comes, you have to cash in and maximize the effort because you don't know if you're going to be there next year. If I'm the Giants, I don't say, well, if we lose, maybe we get in the next week. Or, if we're close this year, but if we don't get in, boy, we've got a good team coming back and maybe next year. No, you do it. You do it now because you just don't know. The Raiders got in last year on the last game of the season. Look where they are now. So it's and I know the Giants have to believe that it's for the moment. The window closing, the window's open, whatever. No, if you can get in by last week against the Chargers win and got in. They didn't need help. And the last thing you want to do if you're any team is, well, if we win and if 1, 2, 6, 12 things happen and we're in the playoffs, that's what you don't want. That's what the Colts had last year. Win. Go to Jacksonville, the worst team in the league, and you're in. And they were awful. So just seize the moment, and I'm sure that's what the Giants that's what I expect the Giants to do.
And it's a great point. We've seen the ups and downs of the NFL. You're far from guaranteed to carry over what happened the previous season into the following season. I think that has been well documented. He is Mike Chappell, who's covered the Colts for multiple decades. You can now see him on Fox 59, CBS 4. Mike, always a pleasure speaking with you. Greatly appreciate the time and the insight, and look forward to seeing you in East Rutherford, New Jersey this weekend.
Thanks, Mike.
Happy New Year, guys.
Same to you.
Hey, Giant fans, the Giants' official connected TV streaming app, Giants TV, brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV and the Giants mobile app. And you can find the video version of all our podcasts on that as well, including Big Blue Kickoff Live. So make sure you go check that out. Mike Chappell, great preview of the Colts from him. Again, he covers them and has been doing it since 1984 at Fox 59 and CBS 4. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at mchappell, 2 P's, 2 L's, 51. All right, let's get to our final conversation of the podcast. The voice of the Giants, Bob Papa, has a nice conversation with the head coach of the New York Football Giants, Brian Daboll.
The Giants take on the Indianapolis Colts at MetLife Stadium. Final home game for the season for the Giants, and an opportunity to lock down a playoff spot. And as always, we're joined by the head coach of the New York Giants, Brian Daboll. And Coach, the opportunity sits in front of your football team. You've done a great job this year, though, of keeping the focus on the game and the opponent. Have you had to work extra hard this week to make sure that guys aren't talking playoffs and are talking Colts?
No, it's been a consistent approach throughout, since we started. Obviously, we know what's at stake. I don't think anybody doesn't know that, but I think the more you can focus on the things that have gotten to this point, that's why you've done all those things. You've worked hard during the year to put yourself in a position to have an opportunity like this, and keep the main thing, which is preparing for the Colts.
In Indianapolis, despite what their record is, they've played in 10 one-possession games. You guys have played in 12, so it's not as if they haven't been in football games. And they do some things. Like you think about the Minnesota game. They blocked a punt for a touchdown. They had a pick six for a touchdown in the first half of that game. So there are a lot of things that I would assume you could put on tape and have your team at high alert.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think what's good about our team and our players, our coaches, is you respect every team you play, from the first game to the last game, because everybody is good in this league. Everybody has a good coaching staff, and it really comes down to your preparation and ultimately how you play on Sunday.
Nick Foles, veteran guy, won a Super Bowl. They dusted him off against the Chargers last week, and it was rough all the way around. You got to expect that with a full week with the ones this week, you're going to see a much better performance and a much more dangerous performance from the quarterback of the Colts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you expect everybody's best each week, and he's been a good football player a long time in this league, and I think he's got a lot of good weapons around him, a good offensive line, and this is a good football team.
Coach, talk about their running game, and obviously Taylor's out for the season, and he's been a dynamic player, but they've got some other guys that can hurt you with the run.
Yeah, absolutely. Jackson's a good player, and Zach, I've been familiar with Zach for quite some time being at Buffalo. And then they have a good offensive line and some tight ends that have good length and size, and they do a variety of things. Obviously, Coach Saturday's been a former offensive lineman, so those guys are good up front, and then the backs, they can hit a crease and go.
When you go to the other side of the ball, look, they have some pretty good numbers defensively. I think they're ranked 11th in total defense. And, they've got a disruptive force in the interior of that defensive front. DeForest Buckner's been doing it for a long time and doing it at a high level. And Ngakoue leads the team in sacks with 9.5. And then Zaire Franklin, the linebacker, and then Stephon Gilmore. I mean, this team has got a lot of good players on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, this is a good defense. One of the better defenses we've played. Coach Bradley's done this for a long time. I think they understand his system. They play fast. They're big inside with Stewart and Buckner. They can rush the passer, Yannick and Pay. They have a former defensive All-Pro just a few years back, and Gilmore, who's plays at a high level. And it's a fast defense that doesn't give up a lot of big plays. They do a good job of stopping the run. And like I've mentioned before, 4 of the last 6 weeks they've been up at the end of the third quarter. So they don't give up a whole lot of points. The Dallas game kind of got away from them with turnovers, but a very, very good defense.
They have turned the ball over 30 times. That's the most in the NFL. You guys have had opportunities, even in the Minnesota game, opportunities for interceptions, not able to connect on them. How important is it when you get those chances to make sure that you capitalize on them?
Yeah, it's huge. One of the deciding factors in most games is turnover margin, and just taking a look back at last week, we had too many. We had 2 plus the block punt. We had our hands on some of them, just didn't quite come down with them, or got one called back. And we have to create turnovers on defense, and we have to do a good job of taking care of the ball on offense.
Coach, finally, with this being the final home game of the 2022 season, we've talked about it. You've made MetLife Stadium a home field again for the Giants, where it's Giants fans are in there. Just talk a little bit about what the fans have meant for you and this team during the season playing these home games.
That's awesome. They're great. They present a lot of problems for opponents' offenses at the line of scrimmage. The communication, they're loud. We have a packed house. They're there early. They're getting ready to go. I know they give the players and the coaches, juice during the game. They've been supportive throughout my time here. They love the game of football. You can tell that. They're passionate. And I think, their passion and their excitement, that gives the players, again, energy on the sideline. So, we're very thankful for them, and we're looking forward to them being pretty loud today.
Coach, we appreciate a couple of minutes. Best of luck in the ball game. We'll do it again next week.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob.
That's Giants head coach Brian Daboll. We thank you for joining us on the Giants Huddle podcast. We also thank Saquon Barkley for being a part of the program, and we thank Mike Chappelle, who again covers the Colts out there in Indianapolis. Great show. Thanks to Bob. Thanks to Paul. Thanks to Lance for chipping in. Again, hope everyone had a happy holidays, and hope you have a happy and safe new year as the Giants head into 2023. I'm John Schmelk. We'll see you next time on the Giants Huddle podcast, brought to you by PSEG, energy efficiency for game time and anytime. Visit pseg.com/Giants for discounts, rebates, and home energy assessments. We'll see you next time.